Hey guys, welcome in to the Rizzcast podcast. My name is Justin Rizzo, and I'm joined today by a special guest, my friend Jordan Marcotte. And if you don't know Jordan, Jordan is a conference speaker, entrepreneur, worship leader, brand expert, all kinds of things. And I want to jump right in today and talk to him, which he has no idea what I'm going to talk to him about. He just agreed to hop on as a guest. But we've been talking, we've known each other for years. And in the past couple of years, there's been a lot happening in your life in terms of transition.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to just kind of ask you about the past year and a half of your life. You were a full-time worship pastor for 15 years and an associate pastor for 15 years. Ministry was kind of the end all be all in your life as far as you could see for a lot of years. And then something happened about a year and a half ago where a mentor of yours floated this idea of, hey, like, what if you kind of like step back from this and kind of take us through from that point? Because again, transition for a lot of people hate transition. I do not like transition. I do not like things changing. I'm a routine guy. I want to know like my schedule, and I love, doing the same thing, whatever. Within reason, I also love traveling and seeing a different city every single day. I love touring. But for you, I guess first question, are you the type of personality that likes transition, or are you like not a fan of it?
That's really hard. I do like transit. I don't mind transition. I think I do really good with it. But I'm more effective when I have routine.
Okay.
So I know that probably sounds contradicting, but I am.
No, it's a good distinction. You know
Yeah,
yourself.
I do. Yeah.
So when this mentor floats this idea, I believe if I recall, you said you had a lot of resonance of like, absolutely, that's my next step, right?
Yep.
So then the outworking of that, you go to your pastor and you share this. Like, how did that conversation go?
It went really good. I was grateful. I think I talked about this in a couple episodes ago, but just explaining how I was at a church for a while, and then I jumped in with my youth pastors who were starting this church here in Kansas City 3 years ago. And so it was beautiful because I remember them even saying, like, obviously they wouldn't have known what this would have ultimately looked like or meant, but just like, hey, I hope that this can be like a time of rest for you.
Hmm.
And so the reason I give that backstory is because I think if I was somewhere else, I don't think that I would have felt the same kind of grace and permission as I did when I told them. Now, the only hard part was that we had already had a conversation a few weeks before where I'm like, I was stepping away from some other, job thing, content thing that was also helping supplement income at that time, that I was taking a severance from. And I said out of my mouth that I was not going to step away from the church because I just felt highly insecure about it. Would have never thought, that would be the answer. And so when my mentor was in here in my living room, there was a lot of relief because I was like, I didn't feel a lot of confidence choosing that for myself. And so I immediately went and did. I mean, I immediately had the conversation. Like I went immediately and had it
With your pastor that you had
with my
just said
pastor.
stepping down, then you go back to him and say, whoops, I am stepping down.
Yeah, I said, hey, actually, I'm out of here. And I thought it was going to be 3 months. And he's like, how about we just take it month at a time? And so now it's been a year and a half. So I think we're just still taking it a month at a time.
But it was a year and a half ago,
Yeah.
January.
Yeah.
You got severance for 3 months.
Yeah. From the content job. Yep.
Okay. So March comes along. And I remember you and I having these conversations to kind of draw, our listeners into the story here. The days are ticking by, and that severance is about to end.
Yeah.
You had clarity that you were not going to go back and be a full-time worship pastor.
100%.
And did you have clarity about what was next?
No. Zero clarity. No.
Zero clarity.
Zero clarity.
Zero clarity and zero income.
Yep.
After the severance ends.
Mm-hmm. Zero.
Okay. How'd your wife do in that season?
Thankfully, she, she's phenomenal, man. Like, I think because of how she grew up as a missionary kid, Like,
Okay.
obviously there's parts of it that were challenging, but like she really understood that we were in the will of God.
Okay. So
And
stop.
so she was not stressed about it
Okay.
at all.
But you, as a man, the provider, the guy who's supposed to have his house in order, his family in order. You have 2 kids. You're stressed every day. Like, are you sleeping?
Yeah. Dude, okay. Yeah. I mean, there in the beginning, because it was like, okay, we've got a little bit of money to last us maybe 3 months.
Hmm.
Try to last us 3 months. And the way I explain it was like it felt like for the first time I was just like uncapped. Like I saw the world in different colors. Music, you know, music, ministry, all of it was like there's always so much pressure around thinking this is the only thing that I've got. This is the only thing I'm good at. This is, this has to work. This has to work, especially music. Music separate from worship leading as an artist always felt like, well, this somehow still feels close to maybe what God has wanted me to do, but it can be my out from ministry. I think I always wanted an out. I know that sounds really bad because I'm a great worship leader. I love worship leading.
Hmm.
Um, but I recognize the parts of worship leading that I really love and that I'm gifted at has nothing to even really do with the conventional version of like what worship leading like looks like in church. And so music though was really fun for me still to this day, but it's the weirdest feeling to have zero desire right now to do it, which is like why it's just super weird. And so I'm not losing sleep at this point, but I am like I'm actively trying to rest and figure out how to build what's next.
Hmm.
So it was like really weird. And then yeah, God caught me off guard with what happened. So
And so, what was the first inkling that God was like pushing you in the direction that you were about to head in? What happened?
so I had picked up a video camera 2 years ago or at this point, what, 3 years ago, 2.5, 3 years ago, to start a YouTube channel. But like anything else, I can't do anything and make it not look good. It doesn't have to be perfect, but like I love being a student. And so I got reasonably good at it. And then I started doing it for like making content for, me and my wife, our music, making content for people at church. And in the past, I had dabbled in like marketing stuff and things like that with other friends to try to supplement income. I wasn't like a genius, but I knew enough to be able to understand that, like, what clients needed. And so for me, I knew that I needed to be able to have high ticket. I started learning about high ticket offers, and I knew that I needed monthly recurring revenue. So I knew I needed MRR. And so I was like, well, I can use my camera to try to create an offer for entrepreneurs and business owners who needed like marketing content. And so that's what I did. And so I don't remember who was the first. It was some person from my church, I think. Yeah, it was some person from my church. I'll leave their name out. But I sold them essentially on a $2,500 a month offer to do content marketing. And I was like, okay,
From
that's my
the,
first.
like,
Yeah,
no web,
just like no
no great.
day,
Oh,
no, I have no website. No one knows what the frick I'm doing. I know we mentioned M-House before, but like that was just a cute idea to like give it a name, but there was really no brand. There was nothing that existed. It was just me. And so, that's what started showing. And then I did it again. I closed a coffee shop at $2,500 a month. And then it just like built its way up. I think our highest month was like 20 grand. And
so
so, yeah.
I mean, so from 3 months severance from ministry to I don't know how I'm going to pay my bills when these savings and the severance is gone, to looking at the camera you'd bought a couple years earlier and saying someone at your church, hey, I can make a video about that, or I can help you set up a podcast studio, or I can help you share your story or whatever. Suddenly you're closing clients at $2,500 a month, highest grossing month, $20,000. Now it's been a year and a half. How much would you say you've closed gross income from these videos and help people with their branding?
I mean, those first 9 months or so, I'm pretty sure we did. I mean, we hit six figures that first year,
Wow.
and so it would have been, yeah, leading up until this point. I mean, we would have been over six figures, which was huge for me because my goal was I want to be able to make the severance I got that was supposed to hold me over for 3 months in 1 month. That was like my number one goal. I wanted to make $10,000 in 1 month.
Mm. Wow.
And so 1 month I went from, I think we hit like 6K, and I was like, this is amazing. But then we jumped straight. Like that was the month where we hit pretty much 20 grand. I think it was
Wow.
like maybe like 19.5, something like that. So that was nuts because you got to remember too, there was a lot of stuff God was doing, like breaking apart value and worth, right? I was going through an identity crisis at the same time.
Mm.
God was using something that I thought was so stupid, felt like David in the slingshot attacking Goliath and winning, it just was like a camera. Like people come up to me, you the camera guy? I'm like, are you serious? Yeah, do you not know who I am, what I do? And I hate that
Wow.
that stuff was in me. But that was,
Yeah.
bro, God had to break that, man. And a lot of it was just out of frustration, man, fear, a lot of years of, did I make the right decisions? How,
Mm.
like where all that stuff. And again, we go deep into that, but God used it, man, to like he provided while I was able to heal and rest
Mm.
and
Wow.
just reframed a lot of my mind. And so what started happening was, though, the deeper thing was I started looking at all the things that I was really good at, like identity. Like honestly, I feel like I'm an identity coach. That's probably like the strongest position for me because it's like what started happening with entrepreneurs was I'm like, all this stuff I've been doing in ministry for years, now I'm doing among entrepreneurs, not just delivering, but doing the transformative work. And so I
Mm.
would look at their insecurities and stuff. This is where coaching and consulting really started to like emerge because that's my strengths. That's my real gift. Making
Yeah.
videos for people I do not care about. But what I do
Mm.
care about is people being able to access the depth of who they actually are, who God made them to be, so that they can say what they need to say and tell the story that they actually need to tell. And
And
so I
so,
started, yeah,
yeah, so to interrupt you, but on that, I remember vividly multiple times last year and a half, we're grabbing coffee and you tell me, man, I sat down with whoever in whatever field it was. They hired me to do some video work for them. So I'm there as a video guy. You have a team of editors who work for you. You shoot, you edit it. Um, but you spent most of your time, I remember you saying, correct me if I'm wrong, I spent most of my time talking the person through who they were. And they're like, well, what am I supposed to say? You're like, well, why do you why do you make baseball bats for Little League Baseball? It's like, I don't really know. It's like, what do you mean you don't know? Like, it's just a
yeah,
business to you. It's like getting to the deeper meaning. And then you begin to find you're like this, identity or soul coach. You're sitting there with your camera, taking way more time than you were contracted for.
for
Because you're a
sure.
camera, you shoot up, you set up, you shoot, you press record. You're not like the coach guy writing their scripts. That's a separate identity, a separate job,
Yeah,
called an identity manager or brand manager or whatever. Or you just assume this person has their stuff together and they know why they're doing this business. You're like, you're taking hours to coach them on what to say, and you begin to find this is actually where I think what I'm made to do, not just at coffee shops with the bros, but to get paid for these
that's right.
services.
It was wild to get paid for it because I had done this level of coaching for years, years and years. That's why it's like, it's not just like brand coaching. I feel like because it is soul level strategy, it is like identity. It's just that how I help impacts brand. And
Yeah.
so there's a little bit of a differentiator there, but it's huge, especially in today's age, because you and I were talking about this. I think earlier this week, where obviously we're talking about long form content and all this stuff. But in the day and age of AI, all this stuff, beautiful tools and things to
Yeah.
use. It's
Yeah.
just the reality is that if people like the greatest strategy anyone ever has in their art, creativity, or brand, and in their business is
Yeah.
story all day. And like I said in our previous episode, if people do not learn to heal their story, if they do not learn to go back and forgive, if they do not allow themselves to access, it does not matter how good of a story you can tell. You will, you'll, you'll offer fragmented versions and inauthentic versions of yourself. That's why people burn out because they
Yeah.
cannot sustain that over time.
Yeah.
They can't. And people want that part of it.
Absolutely. And to comment on that, and I face this all the time. So if you listen to my show for a while, I coach worship leaders, and I have multiple programs that I run. One of my programs is twice a year in Nashville, Tennessee. I take 10 people per event. It's called Recharge. Jordan was with us there this past year. He'll be there with us again this next year. And part of what I do when you sign up for this event in Nashville, it's not just soul care for worship leaders in the sense of, body, soul, and spirit or whatever. We're going to pray over you and prophesy over you, whatever. We do those things. It's amazing. We create together. We co-write together. We lead sets together, eat amazing food, amazing coffee. But really what sets this event apart is I produce a ready to upload to Spotify single for each person who comes. Okay. And so over and over and over again, when people hear about this program, and they reach out, whatever, hey, like, how does this work? And there's a whole website and everything else. But there's such number one, insecurity of do I even have a song? But that's not my point. The point I want to mention is, man, this is so much money. Now it's only $4,000. That's not a lot of money. If you see the value of what you're getting, all your food, all your drinks are covered. You're getting it ready to upload to Spotify single. I mean, my goodness, you could spend $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 on a single alone. Yeah. Seriously. So it's a great deal. Yeah. But for a lot of people, $4,000 is oh my gosh, how am I going to get that money? And so I say, you can fundraise it. You can, share with grandma, grandpa, aunts, uncles, your church, whatever. Best to have your church understand that if they push you as a worship leader to grow, it's only going to help them. They're not creating a Nashville superstar. As they invest in you as a worship leader, it's going to turn back on their church and affect them. So ideally the church pays for it. But for a lot of people, the church can't do that with their volunteer, whatever, or the church can supplement some of it and they got to raise $2,000, whatever. And they say, well, how am I going to raise it? So I'm like, well, just talk to people, you can write a little letter and share in person. It's the best way to do it. And I'm like, what's your vision for doing this? And they're like, I don't know. I just felt like a prophecy when I was young and I should write and record music. And I'm like, okay, that's awesome. I love that. But you need to have an actual vision with clarity behind what you're doing as a creative, as a songwriter. And if you don't have that, and I've coached, and walked tons of worship leaders through this process of well, why do you want to create more music when you have Elevation and Phil and Brandon and Bethel and all these different people creating all this music? Why would you throw your hat in the ring, right? And I'm playing devil's advocate. I believe that they should, just because God called them to. That's enough. Yes. But I'm pushing it to fundraise. If some slick business guy is why would I ever pay you when we have Phil and Brandon on Caleb every day, to go record it? Why would you ever go record a song if they don't know you, whatever? What would you say to that person? You want to have an answer, and you want to actually, whatever that is for you. It's well, I feel specifically in the theology of music, I really have a bent towards songs about surrender, wholehearted, narrow way type songs. And that's what I'm going to Nashville to do, because I believe that there's a demographic of young people who don't understand surrender. And maybe sometimes in worship music, we don't always hit that. There are amazing songs, but I really feel bent towards that. That's a vision of why you want to go, record your music or whatever. So let alone a business owner, I'm speaking to creatives and songwriters in here. Instead of just throwing your hat in the ring to create more music and more noise on Spotify, again, a calling alone is good enough. Move forward if you feel called to do it. But it helps a whole lot if you have a vision.
It does.
So as you're walking these people through their process of this person who creates baseball bats for whatever, doesn't know their vision of why they do it, whatever it is, I'll say that's a fake story. You begin to find, I think I'm actually skilled and gifted at doing this. So now fast forward, it's been a year and a half of doing this. Where do you find yourself today? Can people go to a website or to your Instagram if they're like, hey, I want to talk to this guy. I want to pay for an hour consult with this guy to begin to to help me with my business or my brand, whether it's personal, whatever your company is. Can people still do that today? Are you full up with clients? Do you have any space?
Yeah, I think what's cool now is the transition away. The content stuff was amazing. Just the Lord used it, pun intended, to expose
Mm-hmm.
me to the reality of like what people are really needing, because it was more than just entrepreneurs. This is a human problem, and I just like, I think because of my obsession with wanting to be able to see in, like, people unlocked, now it's, I'm obviously bending more into being a speaker,
Okay.
because I want to be able to use my story and my voice to be able to help champion and encourage one to many,
Mm.
right? To be able to help frame identity and to be able to like let people see that their story is beautiful. That if I don't learn to go back and forgive and heal and embrace every part of me, there are people that will work with me simply because the answer to that question always is why me. I was like,
Mm.
I know everyone's always like, why not you? But I'm like, the reality, because I'm like, you literally are the only person in this entire world that God will ever and has ever made, will ever make, that has your perspective, your experience, your story. And so the best thing that we can do in this life is to be able to embrace all of it. And then, yeah, coaching and consulting. And
Yes,
so
you
huh?
are you open to be doing a quick challenge on here?
Sure.
I have a landscaping business.
Yep.
You sit down with a CEO of a landscaping company, and what is the first thing that you begin to kind of go after? Like, we cut lawns, maybe we do installs of waterfalls and fireplaces in backyards or whatever. But what's like, help me walk through and help my listeners kind of understand, why would they ever need, like, a soul coach in that regard? Like, how can they
So, yeah.
pull
Okay.
it?
Yeah, that's a good question. This happened the other day, actually. So I'm glad that you brought this up. It's not a landscaping business, but the first thing, like literally over lunch, someone's like, I need to consult you about marketing. They call it marketing, whatever. And I work more closely with personal brands, like people who want to leverage personal brand and story.
Okay.
Um, but what we're seeing is like, I mean, always the first question is like, what do you need to get out of this? That's not like a wow, woo, blow your mind as a coach and consultant thing. But the reality is that if you're just looking for business revenue growth, and like, I'm not a business growth coach,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not here to run your ads. I did all of that, and only to find out everything that I didn't want to do. But if you are a founder who believes in legacy and who believes in connection, and you believe that there's a narrative that you want to be able to not only leave behind but live out and be able to speak from, and you want to build your business from the place of being able to actually have connection with your clientele and your community, then we begin to move through the phase of, okay, if outcome is legacy content, legacy branding, then that's where we begin to shift that into, what's the story, who
Mm-hmm.
are you? And that's hard to, like, I could sit here and write out a framework, but the reality is that there's not just some exclusive one. Maybe I should make one size fits all framework that be able to ask specific questions. But you'd be surprised that if I said, what's the story, the amount of people I worked with them all year, man, people making crazy money who felt completely disconnected and removed from their brand,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so that's where I had to like learn to like leverage and also like understand my niche, is I'm no longer just coming in as just like a marketing and advertising consultant. There are people who are like, no, I don't care about all that. I want to pay money and then do a conversion and get transaction. I'm like, I'm not a part of that anymore. I don't
Yep.
want to do any of that. That's not where I serve people the best. But there are founders, CEOs, and leaders of companies and businesses, not even just solopreneurs, but people who are parts of massive corporations who are investing real money, real time, and real effort into building their personal brand. A personal brand is just, who are you? What's the reputation that people think of? What's the perception based on your service experience and what you share? And so my encouragement through all of that is to go far back, because there's always, again, I always use this example. I was in here filming a new real estate agent, and I said, why are you doing this? Like, the whole video was about her why. I was like, why are you doing this? And she gives me her whole script, and it was and no disrespect to her, it was very clean. I want to be I'm a real estate agent because I'm here to help people find their safe haven and their new haven and home, and all this stuff that sounded so cute, so great. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, I turned the camera off, right, and I go, okay, now that we got that out of the way, Um, why are you a real estate agent? Why are you transitioning into this? What's the story, bro? And this is the most beautiful example of this. She goes on to saying, when I grew up, home was not a safe space. I would get off the bus and do everything that I could to
Mm,
delay going home.
mm.
And
Wow.
she's like, it has meant everything to me to be able to contribute. I know I cannot guarantee anyone's life or lifestyle, but if I can contribute to helping someone else have a home that they look forward to going to that can be full of peace. And so I said, I borderline tears because I said, now that's the story.
Mm,
But then when I talk about heal, people are like, what does it mean to heal the story? What does it mean to engage in forgiveness and all of that stuff? I said, why don't you say that?
mm,
And she's like, because I'm afraid of
mm.
I don't want other people like my mom or whatever to ever watch a video like that and feel guilty or shame. And I was like, that's real. Let's talk
Mm.
about that. Now we begin to heal the story so that she can fully embrace. I said, do you know that people would buy from you and choose to work with you
Yeah.
because they identify with their story? And oftentimes when we talk about branding, we talk about people being able to find themselves within your story. So why am I so vocal about my fatherlessness, about the abuse that I faced, about the
Mm.
trauma, about the ACEs, about all this stuff? It's because it has informed my perspective and why I believe that story is powerful and why I think other people should embrace all of their. I had to learn deep forgiveness. I had to look at me. I sat, bro, like my father has held my children, has never held me. And so forgiveness doesn't just impact the future, it redeems the past, And so like my father's going to hold my son, bro, in a month and he never would have held me, right?
Mm.
That's a powerful dynamic.
Wow.
And so I had my first Father's Day lunch with him. Like people will choose to work with me simply because of my story. People will choose to work with you, Justin, simply because of the journey you've gone through, your story. And so I believe that like not everyone needs a coach. Sometimes people need a companion. And so the difference is that sometimes we do not need somebody on the other end of the thing saying, "Come on, you got this." Sometimes the result is the daily reminder in that moment that I'm gonna get there. But today, I just need to take the one step. I need to make the one choice. I need to heal the one part of my story. I need to forgive the person. I need to forgive myself.
Yeah.
That's why it's identity coaching, bro. That's why it's soul work. And so, yes, the answer is I would love to talk to anyone about any of that stuff. But it showed me that that's what people want too when they buy. It is obviously from the emotional parts of who we are, but we want to connect with story. And that's why, like, content, like what I do helps impact content. I love helping people make content, but when it's on the other side of getting that part done right,
Right. Right.
the healing of story, so that they can actually then, like, it's not good. Who cares about telling a story, bro, if it's fractured, like just unhealed, and like you're trying to dance around it to
Right.
try to
Right.
polish it up. And I'm like, it will get you somewhere for a little while. It will.
Yeah.
Not sustainable, bro. And
Yeah.
not the kind of impact I think people actually want to make in their businesses, man.
So
Sorry,
with
that was a
people,
lot. Thank you.
no, that's great. So narrow it down for me, because if someone's listening to this and maybe their interest is piqued or whatever, um, what kind of people would you like? So you said founders, CEOs of a huge company, but maybe for their own personal, development or soul coaching or identity coaching that would never be forward facing. Is like, most CEOs are not going to become like influencers
Yep.
of their company, like their services sell their company, right? But would you be open to, would it be helpful for people, your systems and frameworks that you walk people through to for someone like that to hire you?
Yes, because this to heal a story isn't just about how we show up in content. It's how we lead, how we love, how we live.
Mhm. Okay. Yeah.
Right. And I impacted all of those things. Like I saw my performance mentality, and the work that I needed done had nothing to do with just exclusively how I decided to show up in front of my camera. It had everything to do with how I showed up and how I love my wife and my children, how I actually am in service to others, and how I actually live honorably before the Lord. Like those soul work and identity story coaching, like it's so much more than how you stand up and present. I love that stuff. Do I want to help people practically become more confident and show up? Oh my gosh, dude. Because I know the impact that they want to make.
Yeah.
But this impacts all of this. That's why it's not just a brand. That's why I'm not just a branding coach. And so consulting and coaching and guiding through that is something that will impact your whole life. And so it will ultimately create more sustainability in your brand if you are a founder and CEO. Your high
Yeah.
levels of stress probably come from misalignment, not just heavy work, not just
Mm.
heavy lifting. And so there's chances are that in your identity somewhere, your identity is just misaligned. And so we've got to be able to like return to who you are without the titles. And it's really hard when someone's been doing that for 20, 30 years. It's very hard.
Right. Totally.
Yeah. And
Totally.
so, yeah, dude, I'm right now in this season. That's even, again, my speaking, like whether it's, college athletes or like creative conferences like yours, where I'm able to come and talk about confidence in your identity as an artist. It's like all of that information can be geared toward any person in life who's trying to actually live free and make impact.
Yeah.
And so I speak from my own pain, my own mess, my own journey of overcoming burnout and being able to find that, oh my gosh, like if we can reel in, then we can actually impact and influence and serve the titles that we have in that season,
Mm.
with like actual impact and not just
Yeah.
potential burnout, heart attacks and strokes at any given second. So
Yeah.
yeah, dude.
I love it. Well, dude, it's been inspiring to watch you the past year and a half succeed in this new business and transition, which is kind of the topic for this podcast, to transition well with grace, still loving God, your spouse, and your children. And so, if you want to work with Jordan, or just have a conversation, start a conversation, hit him up on Instagram. That's the best place to do it.
Yes.
Yeah, hit him up on Instagram. I know he'd love to have a conversation. I know you're talking about somebody in St. Louis you're consulting with. I think it's this upcoming weekend, doing a day consult with them, and they're going to see a lot of transformation. I know that they will, and I can definitely attest, like, just straight up sales pitch for Jordan. Being a friend of Jordan, having coffees with Jordan, and we go back and forth for sure. And there's a iron sharpening iron, but
100%.
numerous ones of my projects, numerous of my ideas have been sharpened and honed, and it becomes not just about the project, but it also becomes like I'm sitting there putting stuff in my journal and taking notes on, like, not just, oh, good idea to do this marketing email or whatever, on myself and soul care. I told someone recently, like, we cannot leave our ideation, our processing, and emotional work all between our ears. We cannot figure all of it out ourselves. We need to have other people, whether that's a therapist, a counselor,
Yeah.
a soul coach, whatever you want to call it. Getting someone else in our life, in our corner. Maybe you don't own a business. Maybe you're a musician at a church listening to this,
Yes.
and you're like,
Yes.
I have no one to talk to. My friends, we just shoot the breeze, and my parents, and da da da. Like, getting someone to talk to is so helpful, so beneficial, and will
Yeah.
only massively influence your creative journey and your work. And
That's what
so,
I love about what you're doing, though, too, man. Like I remember when that phrase came up at Recharge, soul care for worship leaders. It's like
yes,
the reason that this is multifaceted. It's not just for some founder or CEO sitting in a suite somewhere, in Overland Park or wherever. It's the fact that I wish that I kind of had this, as a high performer, high achiever, as somebody who, was just trying to do the work of the Lord, serve the ministry. And that's why I think, like, watching you do Recharge, we're about to flip the script here on who's pitching who, but it's like, bro, watching the effort that you put into like something like Recharge, where I'm like Justin's doing the work because he's done the work. And so, like, to have soul care, to help worship leaders with the way that they feel, the way that they think, the way that they choose, the way that they respond to God, like, you are doing so much more than just, I'm going to pray for you. You know what I mean? Like, you're helping actually put them in a position where they can decompress, have a safe space to process,
yeah,
and get real about what they feel assigned to do, called to do, titled to do. And so that's why it's such an easy, like that's why it's been an iron sharpening iron, is I think that we're both so dedicated to wanting to see, we invest in therapy, we invest in these things that are like, what I mean? Like, you've been a massive inspiration and motivation to me, even in this last year, of like being someone who could have walked away from this, bro, and hate the church and hate, like, have massive regret over worship leading. It's like I've been able to transition out of this still loving Jesus and still loving the years, and then still contributing and believing in like the work that you're doing for people who feel called to this place, and just being like, dang, like I wish that I kind of like knew Justin 5 years ago. I did, but like, like I wouldn't have paid attention to needing coaching or whatever, because I would have felt like I'm just a skilled worship leader, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But to see the real work that you're doing, as well as you are in, like walking people through, even on like one of the comments on your ad the other day, someone had made it seem like they just had it all figured out. And I love the people who try to just come back, and try to basically attack you on these threads. I love your response where you're just like, I'm so grateful that you have it all figured out. I know it's a little bitey, but the reality is that, like, I love that position, bro, because you're like on the front lines of fighting for these people who are on the front lines. Like you fight for the people who are on the front lines. And so anyways, man, it's like, also, I know that your audience is probably aware of Recharge, but if they're not, or any of your coaching, it's just like, bro, watching the way that you are dedicated to these human beings is unmatched, dude, and I know I said that when we did the training, last month, but also any person listening to this, it's like, y'all got to jump in, because you got to jump into coaching. Like this is it, to me, it's a non-negotiable. Like, I think if I was leading teams, I would be like, no, we have to have coaching, because we have to keep our souls in a place of not just surrender before the Lord, but like we need guidance and hard questions, and we need to make sure that we're healthy and well to lead other people, and not just do this from a place of of potential burnout, and so there is a way to do it healthy. I think you toe that line and coach through it really, really well. So I think people need to sign up for Recharge and do the thing. So anyways,
love that. You heard the man. Sign up for Recharge and do the thing.
Do the thing.
Jordan, so good chatting with you, bro. Thanks for
it's always
being
cool
and sharing. Really appreciate you, man.
Always.